Is the coffee you're drinking every single morning actually safe? What if I told you that the pod you pop into your machine before you've even properly woken up is being blasted with near boiling water at high pressure, directly through plastic that researchers have detected phthalates and lead in, and the companies making these pods are not required to disclose any of that to you? Australians now consume over 3 million coffee pods every single day. 3 million. That's not a typo. And the majority of those pods are made from polypropylene plastic, aluminium, or a combination of both. When scorching hot water hits those materials under pressure, something happens that the packaging never mentions. I spent weeks going through peer-reviewed research, published scientific studies, and independent lab testing to understand exactly what is ending up in your morning cup. What I found was deeply uncomfortable, because this isn't about one rogue brand. This is systemic. It affects the pods sitting in your kitchen drawer right now. The two core problems are phthalates and heavy metals. Phthalates are industrial chemicals used to make plastics flexible. They are classified as endocrine disruptors by the Endocrine Society, the National Institutes of Health, and the World Health Organization. A 2023 review published in the journal Healthcare summarized the evidence. Phthalates reduce testosterone and estrogen levels, block thyroid hormone function, and have been linked to reduced fertility, pregnancy loss, early menopause, and developmental problems in children. The research specifically flags that children and unborn babies are the most vulnerable because they are still developing. The lead and heavy metal issue comes from a 2017 study published in Toxicology Reports, where researchers tested coffee brewed from single-serve capsules made from metal, biodegradable materials, and plastic. They found phthalates in every single type of capsule tested and detected lead and nickel in all coffees tested. Lead levels in some samples accounted for up to 79% of the tolerable daily intake from a single cup. Nickel levels in some samples exceeded 100% of the tolerable daily intake from 1 cup of coffee. And if you're having 2 or 3 a day, you do the maths. That independent Clean Label Project coffee report, which tested 57 products across 45 of the top-selling brands, found that the highest phthalate levels were in canned coffees and coffee pods specifically. Now let me take you through the 7 pods Australians should be most concerned about. Number 7. Coles Urban Coffee Culture Capsules. Let's start with the supermarket home brand. At 37 cents per pod, Coles's Urban Coffee Culture Nespresso-compatible capsules are one of the cheapest ways to caffeinate yourself in Australia, and that low price point is part of the problem. Coles does not manufacture these pods. They are made by third-party manufacturers to specification, and the details of exactly which polypropylene grades, stabilizers, and plasticizers are used are not publicly disclosed. When you buy an original Nespresso pod, you are buying from a company with significant investment in materials science, public testing commitments, and brand reputation on the line. When you buy a supermarket label-compatible pod at half the price, none of those guarantees apply. Polypropylene plastic is the standard material for most compatible coffee pods. All polypropylene is not created equal. Food-grade polypropylene can still contain additives, residual monomers, and processing chemicals that vary significantly between manufacturers. When hot water, typically 90 to 95 degrees Celsius, is forced through the pod at pressure, the heat accelerates molecular movement within the plastic, increasing the chance of chemical migration into your cup. A 2022 study published in The Science of the Total Environment found that polypropylene containers released between 781 and 4,951 microplastic particles per litre when exposed to hot liquids at 95 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. Your coffee machine does exactly that every single morning. A University of Connecticut study found that coffee pod brewing systems can release estrogenic chemicals into hot beverages, including benzophenone. Benzophenone was the most commonly detected compound across tested samples, found in 6 of 22 pods. For a budget supermarket pod, where the supply chain and raw material specifications are opaque, the chemical risk is higher than it needs to be. If you are having 2 or 3 a day, that exposure compounds over months and years. There is also a taste issue worth noting. In Choice's comparative taste testing, the Coles Urban Coffee Culture capsules scored just 45 out of 100 and were described as leaving a bitter taste. The cheapest option is also one of the worst tasting. Same story, different supermarket. Woolworths brand Nespresso-compatible capsules are again produced by undisclosed third-party manufacturers to supermarket specifications. At 37 cents per pod, the price matches Coles, and so do the transparency concerns. Woolworths scored their capsule 60 out of 100 in Choice taste testing, better than the Coles Urban Coffee Culture pod, but still a mediocre result by any measure. What matters most here is what you cannot see. The polypropylene shell that your near boiling water passes through contains no public disclosure of what plasticizer formulations, stabilizers, or processing aids were used in manufacture. The aluminium foil lid is punctured under pressure, and aluminium itself carries concerns. A 2020 study published in ACS Omega confirmed that aluminium from capsules can be absorbed through the gastrointestinal tract, binding to ferritin and transferrin proteins, and potentially crossing the blood-brain barrier. Research is ongoing on the neurological implications of aluminium accumulation, but the precautionary principle suggests that less is better. If you are going to use pod coffee, the material composition and manufacturing standards of what you are brewing through matter. For supermarket generic pods at the bottom of the price range, those details simply are not available to you. Number 5. Nescafé Dolce Gusto capsules. This one lands differently because Dolce Gusto has enormous market penetration in Australia. The machines are cheap and the pods are available at Woolworths, Coles, IGA, and Big W. For millions of Australian families, Dolce Gusto is just what coffee looks like. But Dolce Gusto pods are made entirely from polypropylene plastic with an aluminium foil lid, and unlike original Nespresso capsules, which use aluminium throughout and no plastic in contact with the coffee, Dolce Gusto capsules have plastic directly in the brewing path. Every time you use one, hot water is forced under pressure through a polypropylene pod. Nestlé, which makes Dolce Gusto, has acknowledged this and has been working to reduce the amount of polypropylene in their capsules. In 2022, they announced a 13% reduction in plastic per capsule. That is a genuine improvement, but the capsules are still plastic, and plastic exposed to heat, pressure, and acidic coffee remains a vector for chemical migration. The flavored varieties compound the concern. Dolce Gusto includes pods for lattes, cappuccinos, and chocolate drinks that contain powdered milk and sugar. These multi-ingredient pods require the plastic shell to house a more complex set of compounds, and some flavoring agents can themselves act as plasticizer solvents, accelerating chemical leaching. The recycling program Nestlé runs through TerraCycle in Australia means at least that the waste has somewhere to go. But the recycling program does not address what is going into your cup before the pod reaches the bin. If you have children who are drinking hot chocolate or milky coffee pods through a Dolce Gusto machine, this is worth pausing on. Phthalate research consistently shows that children and developing fetuses are the most vulnerable populations for endocrine disruption. The Endocrine Society's statement specifically flags that effects can occur at very low exposure levels for these groups. Vittoria is an Australian coffee institution, founded in Sydney in 1947. For decades, it meant ground coffee in a foil bag. Now it means something quite different for a lot of people. Plastic capsules for a proprietary machine system that only Vittoria pods fit. The Espresso-Toria system means you are locked in. The barcode on Vittoria capsules is designed to prevent third parties from making compatible pods. This is effectively the same strategy Nespresso used with the Virtuo system. You pay what Vittoria charges, 70 cents per pod, or you don't use the machine. For that premium price, Vittoria capsules are made from plastic. The coffee itself is good. Vittoria has decades of roasting expertise, but the plastic delivery system does not distinguish a premium brand from a budget one when hot water is involved. Here is the particularly uncomfortable part. In Choice's independent taste testing, Vittoria Family Cup Nespresso compatible capsules scored just 40 out of 100. That is the lowest score in Choice's test. Taste testers described them as excruciating and a little burnt. At 49 cents a pod, they could not even claim to be the cheapest. When you combine premium pricing, machine lock-in, plastic pod material, and a mediocre taste outcome. That is a combination that does not serve the consumer. Number 3. Grinders Coffee. Capsules, Phthalates system. Grinders Coffee is owned by Coca-Cola Amatil, which is owned by Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners, one of the largest non-alcoholic beverage companies in the world. Your local Australian coffee brand, with its Fitzroy-style branding, is a multinational product. Grinders uses the Phthalates capsule system. These are plastic capsules, substantially more plastic by weight than aluminium alternatives. Phthalates capsules weigh over 3 grams each, compared to Nespresso's 1 gram aluminium pod. That is 3 times more plastic material being blasted with near boiling water. Plastic continues to be heated and forced through, which increases the chance of chemicals leaching into the cup. The Phthalates system is also notable for something genuinely problematic. Phthalates capsules have no manufacturer-supported recycling program. You cannot send them back through TerraCycle. You cannot return them to a grinder's boutique. No recycling means the used pod goes into general waste. When the coffee is done, the plastic goes into general waste and then into landfill, where it begins breaking down over the next 150 to 500 years, releasing microplastics and chemical additives into the soil and water. And when plastic begins to break down, it releases more of the chemicals embedded in it. The pod you drank from this morning is still releasing compounds decades from now. The combination of higher plastic mass per pod, no recycling pathway, multinational corporate ownership obscured by nostalgic branding, and the general risks of plastic pod brewing make Grinders Capsules a brand that deserves significantly more consumer scrutiny than it currently receives. Number 2. LOR Barista Capsules. LOR is owned by JDE Peet's, Jacobs Douwe Egberts, one of the largest coffee companies in the world. LOR positions itself as a premium product. The marketing is sophisticated and the packaging is glossy. The pods are stocked prominently at both Woolworths and Coles. The price reflects that premium positioning at 60 cents per pod for branded product. LOR capsules are made from plastic polypropylene with an aluminium foil lid. JDE Peet's operates a TerraCycle recycling program in Australia for LOR and Moccona pods. The recycling infrastructure exists, but it requires consumers to collect pods, seal them in bags, print labels, and arrange pickups or post them. Research consistently shows that only around 10% of coffee pods in Australia are actually being recycled. That means 90% go to landfill. Recycling remains limited. Here is what makes LOR particularly worth scrutinizing beyond the standard plastic concern. LOR markets an aluminium-compatible range that works on both LOR barista machines and original Nespresso machines. The LOR aluminium pods carry the same risk profile as standard Nespresso aluminium pods, which is lower than plastic. But the standard LOR plastic pods sold for the barista machine carry the full polypropylene risk profile. Aluminium versus plastic matters. Consumers buying LOR are paying a premium price point for a product that does not disclose its plasticizer formulation or conduct independent third-party testing for chemical migration under Australian conditions. For 60 cents per pod, that should not be acceptable. Number 1. Nescafé Dolce Gusto Specialty Milk Pods. This is the one that should concern Australian parents most. Not just the coffee pods, but the milk pods. Dolce Gusto sells capsules that contain powdered milk, sugar, and flavorings for drinks like cappuccinos, lattes, and hot chocolates. These pods are popular with children and teenagers. They are marketed as convenient, cafe-style drinks you can make at home. The hot chocolate pods are designed specifically to appeal to younger drinkers. These pods are made from the same polypropylene plastic as the coffee pods. The contents are different in a critical way. Milk powder and sugar in contact with plastic packaging can increase plasticizer migration compared to coffee grounds alone. The acidity of coffee is a more well-studied condition for plastic migration research. Fatty and protein-rich foods in contact with plastic under heat conditions are a less studied but potentially higher risk scenario. More importantly, children are not small adults when it comes to endocrine disruptors. Research published in Frontiers in Public Health found that prenatal and childhood exposure to phthalates affects sex hormone levels, with effects identified in children aged 8 to 14 years old. The Endocrine Society specifically states that the effects of endocrine-disrupting chemicals can occur at much lower doses in developing children than in adults. When your child drinks a hot chocolate made from a plastic pod with near boiling water, they are getting a dose of whatever migrates from that plastic. They are getting it at a developmental stage where the body's hormone systems are most sensitive to disruption. Nestlé does not disclose the specific plasticizer compounds in the polypropylene used for Dolce Gusto milk pods. It does not publish independent migration testing results for Australian market conditions. It does not carry any no warning on the packaging for pregnant women or children. That is the most troubling part of this entire industry, not just Nestlé, but every manufacturer in this space. The onus is on you, the consumer, to find this research. The companies are not going to surface it for you. So what should you actually use? The answer comes down to materials and methods. First, look at Nespresso Original Line aluminium capsules. Nespresso's original capsules contain no plastic in the pod itself. They are aluminium throughout, BPA-free, and the company invests heavily in material standards because its entire brand depends on product quality. Aluminium still carries trace contamination concerns, but the risk is significantly lower than polypropylene plastic exposed to heat and pressure. Nespresso also has the most accessible recycling infrastructure in Australia. Pods can be returned to boutique stores or posted back for processing. Second, consider Australian-owned organic pod brands. Companies like Republica Organic, which is Australian-owned and certified organic, offer Nespresso-compatible capsules available at Coles. Their pods use aluminium and are compostable or recyclable. Organ IC and Pod and Parcel are other Australian-owned brands making compostable alternatives. When you choose an Australian brand, the profit stays here, and the accountability for product ingredients is more directly tied to consumer feedback in this market. Third, consider switching the brewing method entirely. A French press, a stovetop mocha pot, a manual pour-over, or an AeroPress use no plastic in the brewing path. The coffee comes into contact only with glass, steel, or ceramic. These methods cost almost nothing to run and eliminate plastic exposure entirely. A 250-gram bag of fresh ground beans gives you around 30 cups of coffee for less than $15, less than half the per-cup cost of premium pods, with no chemicals in the pathway. How to identify a safer pod when you cannot avoid them? Look for aluminium construction rather than polypropylene plastic. Aluminium pods will typically say so on the packaging. Avoid flavored milk pods for children. Use a mocha pot or standard drip coffee for adults, and keep children away from the pod system entirely. Choose brands that publish independent third-party testing for chemical migration and that participate in accessible recycling infrastructure. Here is the bottom line. 3 million coffee pods a day in Australia. The majority are made from polypropylene plastic. Peer-reviewed studies have detected phthalates, classified endocrine disruptors, in every type of coffee capsule tested. Lead was detected in all coffee from capsules tested in research. Nickel exceeded tolerable daily intake in some single-dose measurements. Children and pregnant women are the most vulnerable. People who drink 2 or 3 plastic pods a day for years are accumulating a chemical load that the research says they should be concerned about, even if the companies selling the pods never say a word. This includes Coles Home brand capsules, Woolworths Home brand capsules, Dolce Gusto, Vittoria Espressotoria, Grinders Cafitoli capsules, LOR Barista plastic pods, and Dolce Gusto milk pods marketed to children and families. Not one of these brands publishes independent migration testing results specific to Australian market conditions. Not one of them carries a warning for pregnant women or children. They are legally permitted to sell the product without disclosing the plasticizer compounds in the pods you brew every single day. You deserve to know this. You can choose to switch to aluminium pods, to Australian-owned brands making compostable alternatives, or to a brewing method that puts no plastic in your coffee's path. That is a meaningful change you can make this week. If this video helped you understand what is actually going into your morning cup, hit the like button and share it with everyone you know who uses a pod machine, because most of them have no idea this research exists. Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you do not miss what we investigate next.